Hello and welcome to our Friday webinar. We are on with Pamela Clark. Welcome, Pamela.
Thank
A
you.
very special edition, I must say, because this is a very good topic. I think we're going to get a very good turnout. And while we wait for people to log on, I wanted to just if you could just a little bit of your background, because I know that you probably gave it in one of our first webinars with you, just so that I have a feeling we might have new people joining us today who haven't met you
Oh,
yet.
sure.
So
No,
yeah,
I
just
would
wait
be
for people to
happy
log in.
to. Yeah, my name is Pamela Clark. I'm 72 years old and I've had birds since I was 13. So I understand them very well. And as I grew up and pursued different careers around the reality of birds in my life. I've worked as a veterinary technician for avian and exotic vets for about 18 years. A long time ago, I bred African greys. I have taken in foster birds for years and years and years because I thought that that would be the only way I could become really the best behavior consultant because I was solving problems in my home. There was never any shortage of people who wanted to give their birds up. And so I would take them in, solve their behavior problems, and then place them into better homes. And that's how I became so knowledgeable about different species and just how to brainstorm all the little problems that
Oh
come to
my
us. And then I've been a behavior consultant for 30 years. I don't know, I can't think of anything else. Um,
gosh.
oh,
Okay.
I've trained
There you go.
parrots.
And if you're just joining us, we're with
Training parrots. I've also done a lot of that.
very nice. Okay.
We have a
Okay.
glitch.
If you're just joining us, you're with we're doing the special behavior Q&A with Pamela. Sorry, I think my connection's a little wonky, my internet. So excuse the if there's any awkward pauses because it's probably the internet. Um, okay, so before I was just gonna if you're just logging in with us, let us know where you're coming from, what area of the great big world you're joining us from. I think we get people from all over for these webinars, so that's always awesome to see. And like I just saw Canada pop up. I just love seeing where everyone's coming from, of course. And so I know that the probably have a lot of questions. So Pamela, I was going to let you start. Just jump in.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We're going to begin today a little bit differently than we usually do because we got a message from a viewer and she has several questions that really altogether comprise a problem that might warrant a behavior consultation. Um, so what I'm going to do to be fair to everyone who also, everyone else who has questions to ask, I'm going to briefly outline what the situation is, what the issues are, and then I'm going to kind of bulletproof the answers. And then, unfortunately, we're not going to have enough time for any follow-up questions. So, for the viewer who submitted these questions, you can always come to me. We can schedule a behavior consultation or we can do a Q&A if you have questions beyond what I say today. So the problem is a super common one. This is a female budgie. She's 6 years old. She's displaying hormonal behavior in that she's doing a lot of cavity seeking, not going into the little cavities that she finds, but she likes to sit outside, as many birds do. That is normal behavior. And so what's happening is we have a boomerang issue going on. So the owner who's trying to practice stationing will put the little bird on the perch and give her a treat and then go back to what she was doing. And then the budgie leaves and she goes and gets her and puts her back on the perch and gives her a treat and then goes back to what she's doing. This is a very, very common problem. So I believe it's worthy of discussion. What's happening is that the bird is learning a chained behavior. He's learning that if he leaves the perch you will come and pick him up so he gets a little social attention, and then he has the opportunity to earn a reinforcer when you put him back on the perch. Further, if she's been able to access a cavity before you go and get her, there's that amount of reinforcement also. So the reality is, when we are teaching a bird to station, it's our job to deliver reinforcers fast enough that the bird doesn't leave the perch. And so if you're working from home, really, you're not going to be able to do that. So I suggest this. Parrots in the wild all have the same schedule, mostly. They all follow the same schedule loosely. They get up at the crack of dawn, they socialize a bit, go and forage for a few hours. Then they have a downtime in the middle of the day when they sleep, nap, preen, whatever. Excuse me. And then they have another active period of foraging at the end of the day before they go to roost, and then they go to sleep. So the reality is that a parrot will do very well with a schedule like this, as long as she gets 3 to 4 hours out of the cage every day, divided into 2 periods. So an hour in the morning, she can come out, fly around, get her yayas out, and then she can go into the cage while you're working, because it's impossible to station a bird like this while your attention is focused elsewhere. And then at the end of the day, she gets to come out again for 2 to 3 hours until she learns to be a better citizen. This is not going to hurt her in any way, but you're never going to solve the problem the way that you are handling it right now. Now, you expressed a concern about birds just needing to stay on one perch. This is a common misperception about stationing. We do not handle stationing the way that we do dogs going to a mat. Instead, for a little bird like this, what we need are several perches. And it's very easy to provide budgies with lots of little places to hang out. Scarf hangers that you get for women's scarves. You can hang one of those from the ceiling with a command hook. You can put, shower perch on a window. There's lots of little perches that you can give to a budgie. And then the idea about stationing. So you're going to work on stationing in the morning for the hour that she's out, and then in the evening for the 2, 3, or 4 hours that she's out. That means you've got to be focused and watching her and delivering treats to her whenever she's on any of her perches, not just one. So she can fly around, go wherever she wants, but the idea is we teach her to stay on her furniture and not go to you or your shoulder or your furniture. So this is why I think a consultation might be helpful to help you create a environment like that. Moreover, you asked about a single budgie living alone. It's my personal belief that any birds who live in large single species flocks should not live alone. So yes, I recommend you get another budgie, but it has to be a female. Really, male and female budgies should not live in the same house. It's impossible. Or it's just so much work to keep hormone production down. Regarding how long a training session you can have for like targeting, 5 minutes a day is great. Stationing, you're going to be doing that your whole life. Every time that bird is out of the cage, you're going to be working on stationing. Regarding mirrors, mirrors are fine for budgies. That was an old myth. People thought that if you gave a budgie a mirror, he wouldn't bond with the people. And of course, that's not true. Budgies didn't bond with people because they were scared of them. Let's see, what else? The last question. Is it okay? Oh, no. Okay, one more question, and then I have an issue to bring up. Is it okay for a bird to just sit near the cavities? No, it is not okay. This bird needs to be up on a perch or in her cage, because the more you allow her to practice this cavity seeking, the more hormonal she will get. And you do not want to get to an egg laying situation, because that could potentially cost you thousands of dollars. So what I want to talk about is diet. There is a phenomenon that has happened in our budgie breeding facilities. So when breeders set up a group of budgies, let's say they set up 50 budgies, so everything is equal. They all have the same diet, they all have the same environment. Some female budgies breed well, they lay eggs, and some don't. Okay, what's the difference? Breeders have discovered that the difference is a sensitivity to fats and carbohydrates in the diet. So what we have done is to breed budgies who happen to be especially sensitive to fats and carbohydrates in the diet. So some of these little girls, they can't eat anything but rowdy bush and vegetables. So this is another reason why you may need a consultation. If this bird is eating seed or some other high fat food, that needs to be changed as well. So keeping budgies is a fascinating experience, and I encourage anybody to keep budgies rather than larger parrots. Forget those Amazons. Keep budgies, but it is a skill to keep them without triggering hormone production. Okay, I'm done.
Oh, so as we, sorry, my internet connection's a little wonky today. Question. So are there any toys or accessories in the cage that you would say to avoid if you have a budgie that's seeking cavity, like cavity seeking? Any
Not
no-nos?
really. Not really. I mean, some people provide those tents. Mostly the people love the tents more than the birds do. But if you have a tent in the cage and you yourself are attached to it because you think it's cute when the bird goes in there, it's fine as long as she doesn't go in there during the day. If she goes in there during the day, nope, it goes. Is
Okay.
that what you were thinking about?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I was just, yeah. I mean, there's just so many accessories that you can furnish a cage with. I was,
I
um,
can't think of any other accessories that a budgie would have. I mean, budgies are so busy.
okay.
Our listener wants her bird to be busy, out flying around everywhere. That's what budgies should be doing. I have two budgies that are out all the time, flying around everywhere, even with my African grays. But you have to teach them to behave just like any other parrot.
Okay. Yeah, and they're high energy. I mean, from my experience, just very, very high energy. Just busy bodies. Busy, 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 busy.
Yes, 100%. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have sorry, we have a question from Jen about first, thank you for taking my question. Has to do with heart disease and African grays. So their 20-year-old female gray has recently been diagnosed with heart disease. She's a rescue from Phoenix Landing. Had her about 10 years. What's the best to help her? The best pellet, she gets Harrison's HP right now and a Nutriberry. They want to know if Nutriberry pellet berries are okay. Also, they can't get her to take her liquid, I'm going to say this, sildenafil medication. It's too bitter,
Okay.
even with flavoring. Anything that they can mix, anything they can mix it with that you suggest, and then getting vet care. Um, she's getting vet care. Sorry. Nice to know what else they could do to help her.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a low fat, low carb diet will be very important. I like the Harrison's high potency. I think that's appropriate. If I were you, I would add in essential fatty acids. Of course, ask your vet about this. But Nordic Naturals, I think, is the best product for that. And you can, what I do is I take it myself and I just prick a capsule and, then put a couple drops on a Nutriberry or something. Or you can use flaxseed oil as well. And again, you would just put 2 or 3 drops on a Nutriberry, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. That would be, kind of a typical recommendation. So why would I recommend this? Because essential fatty acids, specifically omega-3s, help heart health, brain health, and skin and feathers as well. The first vet I worked for, he said that there's just about nothing that essential fatty acids don't help. Now, I know that the pellets are supposed to have essential fatty acids in them, but these elements are easily destroyed by heat, light, and air, and it's impossible to overdose on them. So that's one reason why I'm making this recommendation. Um, if she's older and doesn't fly, it's unlikely that you will be able to teach her to fly. If she does fly a little, you might be able to get her to fly more through training. I could help you with that. Now, I'm going to get into an area. I hope Lafeber doesn't get mad at me, but have become a pretty good herbalist, and hawthorn is tremendously helpful and supportive of heart function. And I think that vets have maybe missed the boat a bit in not exploring herbal medicine because it can be so powerful. And in many cases, what happens is an herbal medicine like that supports and the pharmaceuticals and helps them to work even better. Um, Other than that, there's really not a lot that you can do, I don't think. Except keep her quality of life high, of course, give her lots of natural things, get her out in the sunshine, give her fresh branches, train her. Now, regarding the medication, I don't know where you got it from, but many times if you go to a compounding pharmacy, now, sometimes your vet just dispenses it and yeah, it's bitter, but so what? But if you call a compounding pharmacy, many times they can compound the same medication and it is not nearly as bitter or unpleasant in regards to the flavor. And many times they can also decrease the dose as well, or the amount you have to give. That's what I mean by that. Which can be helpful. Sometimes vets, if they haven't given medicine to a parrot, they kind of don't think about that. They don't realize that giving, 0.1 is a whole lot different than giving 0.3 if you have a bird who doesn't want to take it. Now, regarding putting it in food, this is a tricky deal, but you can do it. So you have to have a number of foods. I'm going to provide you with a list of potential carriers: bread, nutriberries, pancakes, scrambled eggs. With scrambled eggs, you can actually insert the syringe into them and depress the plunger, and the medication will actually go into the egg, because when you scramble it, you've introduced air. So that often is really a good idea. Jalapeno jelly is a winner. Vanilla yogurt, oatmeal, sweet potatoes, bananas. You can inject it into a grape with a needle. Okay, I can't think of any more, so I don't want to take any more time. But here's the thing that happens. You're going to start with one of them. I don't think popcorn would be very good because it's going to absorb it, but the taste is still going to be very present on popcorn. So I never use that. Also, popcorn crinkles too much, because that is the next thing I was going to say. You've got to offer this in a small enough amount of food that the bird is going to eat all of it. Otherwise, you can't do it. You have to give it by syringe. So it is possible also to syringe train a bird while you are giving medication, but not if it's horrible tasting. So, okay, one last thing about food carriers. Start with one. Find one that your bird is going to like. So start with vanilla yogurt. But while you are giving the medication in vanilla yogurt, start giving bread, some kind of really yummy bread. Because at some point, I don't know why, that bird is going to decide he's not going to take vanilla yogurt anymore with that medication in it. It's going to happen anywhere between the 4 and say 8 day mark. But if you've been giving bread, then you can switch to bread. And that's what you do. And then you start feeding sweet potatoes while you're giving the medication in the bread. That's how you have to do it. There's no other way to manage it because there's no carrier that you can put that food on forever that that bird is going to eat. It's going to get tired of it.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. Okay. Question from Dawn about, okay, the brother has a green cheek conure and they have a half moon conure. They want to know, can they live in the same room together? One is male, the other is female. Like if they would they be okay being out together, or will they try to mate? They're both used to free roaming in each home. So what's your advice on that? We've got two different species of conure. Can they hang
Okay.
out together?
So what room is it though? That's very important. What room of the house is it?
Oh, okay. It does not say. Maybe they can give us some more on that.
I'll just give a quick answer. If
Yeah.
it's the living room, it's fine. If it's another room, like if you have a bird room, no, it's absolutely not fine. Because what's going to happen if you're not in there supervising is the entire room is going to become a nest box for these two birds. Whether you get egg laying or not, I mean, you probably won't get mating, but you'll get a pair bond for sure. And then, when you're not watching, they're going to get down from their cages and they're going to go roaming if they have the opportunity to do that. So, no, you can never let parrots free roam in a room when you are not supervising.
Okay. Let's see. 2-year-old Eclectus, Bosmeri eclectus, seems to have reached, it's a male, so it has reached hormonal maturity. So he tends to regurgitate onto their hand whenever they let him onto the sofa with them. What are the best ways to deal with this behavior? So we've got a regurgitating male Eclectus.
Yeah, well, I will say, start by saying that it is very difficult to keep an eclectus in captivity with all of his feathers because in the wild, eclectus breed for 9 months out of the year. So they are especially sensitive to triggers in captivity. So you're going to have to be especially strict with this bird. No shoulders, no laps. He cannot get on the same couch as you. He cannot be on the back of your chair. He needs to have multiple perches. Hopefully, he can fly. If he can't, you're going to have to move him around to those perches and then give him reinforcers, little bits of food that he likes for staying on those perches. I know this seems very weird when I say he can't even share your furniture, but try it. You'll see what happens. And then you need also to keep the diet very low in fats and carbohydrates. I would suggest rowdy bush pellets for this bird. They do great on rowdy bush, and it has the lowest metabolizable energy of any of the pellets out there. I hope all of you will come to my diet lecture, which is going to be on August the 1st here, because I'm going to start talking about the fact that we need to discuss diet now in a different way. It's not about which pellet you feed because it has this in it or that's organic or anything else. It has to be about metabolizable energy, and that is especially true for eclectus parrots. And then you have to prevent cavity seeking, but if you are very good about teaching stationing, you will prevent that problem if it has not already started. Um, so if you do those things, hands off, everybody says, well, can I pet him on the head? Well, yeah, but for less than a minute, you know, you're not going to lean in and pet him on his head for 20 minutes, as some people do. But you have to be very strict with these birds. So I guess to answer, you're muted, Laura. And I guess to wrap up the answer to that question, don't put him on the couch with you and he won't regurgitate.
Okay, well, that's is that a species, especially the male like this, that tend to regurgitate a lot too?
Well,
It's
yes,
a
because
little, yeah.
they tend to run high when it comes to hormone production because of the way they live in the wild. They're just so sensitive to triggers. And so that's why I said it. So it can be very hard to keep an eclectus in captivity. You have to be very strict. But the eclectus owners that I've helped, there have been a few, a handful, that have come to me with a baby eclectus that had, weaning trauma or some other problem. But I was careful to give them this information so they were protected, armed, when the future rolled around, and their birds are doing great. So you
Okay.
can keep an eclectus really well in captivity, but you got to keep them off your body.
Is that the same? I know, like I imagine the female eclectus have different. Maybe they're not trying to regurgitate to you as much. I mean,
Oh, they're
but
worse.
pardon?
They're worse.
They're worse. Okay, I was wondering what experience would be with the female eclectus because
No, they're even worse. They masturbate all the time. I mean, a female eclectus lives in the nest cavity in the wild for about 9 months out of the year. And so if you take a bird with that sort of genetic memory and you put them in the middle of your living room, don't you think you might have some challenges?
yeah, I know. I was curious if I just in the wild aren't the males are going to feed the females who are
Oh
in
yeah.
the cavity.
Oh
So
yeah, the males are whores. I mean, they're going around from one female to another, actually. So the way that both of them live in the wild um make them challenging to keep in captivity.
okay, yeah, that's interesting. They just have such in the it just seemed like they had such personalities that they do in the wild is right if it translates in a home situation. Yeah.
Well, what do you
What about
mean?
if you had a male and female eclectus that you housed to get like as a companion? How do you manage that? That must be quite.
You just keep them in separate cages in the living area. Birds, if you put them in the living area, they're going to relate to you as a flock. You're going to be able to create a flock, and this is the only situation in which birds can function um, in a healthy psychological way. They don't understand being put in a single room with another bird. To them, that spells nest cavity and breeding.
It's a really interesting. Yeah, that's. I was going to ask you later about like to go through like where you should ideal spaces to house your bird in the home. So that kind of gives us insight right there, which is
Yeah, my answer to that question is in the heart of the home.
heart of the home. Okay, there we go. So we have a question about. So they want to know. Have you heard about flavors that work best with gabas, gabapentin? So they're
Yeah, but
currently doing marshmallow and Celebrex in mango fruit passion
I would say banana for Celebrex.
banana. It kind of
That's
goes
my
with mango.
that's my experience. Celebrex doesn't taste that bad, does it?
I've never tasted it, so I don't know.
Trying to remember we used to do a lot of compounding at the vet clinic where I worked. So I was actually making the medications. So, um, I don't know, behavior is a study of one. So you just have to kind of experiment.
That's true, and we have our own flavor preferences, which I imagine different birds might have
Parrot,
theirs.
yeah, but parrots actually don't have that many taste buds combined to us. They have a really good olfactory sense, but the number of buds compared to us is very low. So, they can probably taste what are the four flavors? Sweet, bitter, salty.
Salty, yeah.
Yeah, those are the things they can taste.
And they could also eat the really hot peppers, right? Because they don't have, they can
Yeah,
tolerate. So we
exactly.
can't. It's the
That's right.
hottest of all time.
Uh-huh. That's why.
So we have a question about they got their cockatiel 4 years ago, and they thought it was okay to play YouTube videos for him with the sound of other cockatiels. Um,
Uh-huh.
then they learned more about hormones and was afraid it would activate the hormones more. So since then they haven't played them, but Tuesday they tried it and he reacted vocally to the videos for a little bit. they can't tell if that's good or bad. Does he think they are nearby? Does it upset him? So he isn't reacting badly. Or does the sound make him less lonely? Will hormones kick into gear? So what about screen time in birds with watching videos of other birds? I love this question because I've experienced this and I would have asked you too. So
We have a request for me to speak louder, so I'm going to try and do that.
okay.
Um, I just lost my train of thought. Prompt me. What?
Screen time in birds, is it
Oh,
okay for
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, YouTube videos are fine. Here are the things that cause egg laying in cockatiels, which would then translate, of course, into causing hormonal behavior. Having a metabolizable energy in the diet of more than 4,100 calories, there was a couple of studies done. I think Missouri was one of the companies that did them about this because egg laying in cockatiels is a very common problem. So everybody wants to know how to stop it. Keep the calorie count below 4,100 kilocalories per kilogram um, a day. And um, sorry. Oh, yeah. If there, so I guess what I want to say is that no, these YouTube videos will not cause hormonal behavior because it's got to be physical touch. The bird has to actually be up in touch physically with another bird for that to increase hormone production.
Okay. It's a
And
male cockatiel, by the way. I just learned that. So
oh, okay. Well, we always have to keep hormone production down for all birds, so
yeah.
we do that.
So he can have his screen time
Oh
and be
yeah.
okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, cockatiels are another species that live in large single species flocks. So I think it's a little, harder for them to just be a single bird in the house.
Okay. I had my little budgie that I found years ago, and he absolutely loved his Alexa device because he copied all of Disco the parakeet's vocabulary. So he would call himself Disco. He watched it like that was his like he when he saw the screen light up, he wanted to fly there and watch it for like 20 minutes. He just loved it.
Yeah,
Like it was part of his daily
yeah,
routine. And he
yeah.
picked up like a 20-word vocabulary watching another bird talk.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, with small birds, I think we have to get creative. That's one way that we can do it. Another way you can put a like a shower perch on the outside of an aquarium and so they can watch the fish. I don't think we've even tapped the way that we can create habitats for budgies.
Okay. 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 We have a question about a female cockatiel, very neophobic. So they need to change her sisal rope perch and add some toys, but they hesitate because while she's out of the cage, they fear that she won't want to go back in. They've tried leaving toys and perches outside the cage for a week or so, but when they put them in she stays as far away from them as possible, and will even sit on the food holders rather than a new perch. So, yeah.
So it's never okay to distress a parrot. So if she is fearful of those things when you put them in the cage, then you shouldn't put them in the cage. You should take them out. Um, if she is she so did it say that they have to change a sisal perch?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I would question that. Um, you know, I wouldn't do anything that I didn't have to do. Let me say that. Now, there is a way to introduce new things to parrots. It's called the constructional approach. But I always hesitate to describe it in a situation like this because it is so easy to get it wrong. But I will describe it briefly. You would start far enough back from the bird that you would be holding the toy, and you'd start far enough back that he or she showed no sign of distress at all. In fact, with small birds, it can be kind of difficult to catch their body language. So if she's a millet eater, give her a spray of millet before you start this and get her eating. Then I want you to take one step, look at her body language. Is she still eating? Relax. Then take another step. Is she still eating? Relax. Then take another step. Is she still eating? No. Then you stop and you stand there though. A lot of people make the mistake of going back to the starting point at that point, but you don't want to do that because if you did, you would be rewarding fear. So
Mm.
what you do is you stand there and you wait until she goes back to eating. Now she's more calm. And then you take that toy back to the starting point. And then you go again, and then back to the starting point, and then you go again. Now, if you're doing this well, I mean, if you're doing it correctly, you'll be able to get that toy up to her in a day, probably. And then after that, hang it on the outside of the cage down low. Parrots like to be, if they're afraid of something, they want to look down on it. So hang it on the out of the outside of the cage down low, then on the outside of the cage in the middle, then on the outside of the cage at her height, then you can move it inside the cage.
Okay. Okay. Does it ever help if you like I'm just thinking that's like so like let's say a new toy that you just walk around with that toy and like that you're safe and feel and love the toy. Does the bird ever associate your acceptance of anything? Does it ever no. Sorry.
No, no, I mean, that would have no meaning to a bird whatsoever. They don't care if you like that toy. Parrots care about what they can get. That's what
Oh,
parrots care about. They don't
I
care
love
about
that.
you and your emotions or whether you like a toy or any of that. They're not grateful. They're not, and we like to imbue them and with all of these emotions, but
Oh, that's funny. So I just did a jump to like dog behavior because my dog, if he doesn't take to something initially and I show that I like it, then he likes it. So maybe that's people you try to apply dog behavior to other
oh
birds.
no.
Yeah, don't do that, right?
Well, for one thing, dogs are mammals and birds are not. Dogs are domesticated, birds are not. So, yeah.
I'm glad that that's a really good point. Okay. So someone let's see here. Let's next Okay. Have you ever experienced a bird making squeaking sound out of fear or stress? So they have a 7-year-old budgie that squeaks when they approach him. Sounds like the sound you might hear with a goiter, but he does not have goiter. He had x-rays and various tests done by the vet to see if there's any medical reason for this sound. Nothing has been discovered. There's a time that he was medicated for a GI infection, and they're wondering if that could have traumatized him to see them as a threat now. And he's squeaking out of fear. So kind of a squeaky budgie. Hmm.
We cannot evaluate fear based upon sound. Um, it's very important if you're going to have birds that you get it straight that people are all about touch and talking. Parrots don't want to be touched and they speak through their body language. So I can't answer this question. You should schedule a Q&A with me because I would need to know what kind of body language the bird was displaying as you approached. It doesn't matter what kind of noise it's making. If it goes to the back of the cage as you approach, then yes, that bird has learned fear of you because of the medication process. If you had to use force and hold him and then medicate him, yeah, that is going to teach any bird fear. Unfortunately, it's one of the reasons why the other listener is trying to put it on food because you can really damage your relationship. But the good news is you can build it right back again. So if you approach the cage and the budgie goes to the back of it, then you
Mhm.
need to use the constructional approach that I outlined just a few minutes ago, but don't use it with a toy. You're the one that the bird is afraid of. And so you would follow the same instructions, but you're going to approach the bird without saying anything. Be quiet. And then you're going to follow the same instructions. When you see calmer behavior, you're going to go back to the beginning. For the behavior scientists out there, this is the use of negative reinforcement. We are reinforcing calm behavior by removing the thing that the bird is afraid of. For many years, it was thought that we should never use negative reinforcement because it can cause stress in animals and, break trust. But in this case, it works very well because if you cannot deliver a treat to train an animal, then you have first got to get rid of the fear. And this is the only way to do it.
Okay. All right. So we have two African Greys, supposable siblings. They've been in their care since they were 4 to 5 weeks old. So they hand fed them as a breeder. Just had to go on vacation even. Okay, they're had to go on vacation. And they had I think they had someone that was going to hand promise to hand feed them for them. Um, they managed the hand feeding, and the result is two very tame birds. It's a male and a female. They're in a big cage in the living room. They are very talkative. They copy the talk, they mimic, and often in the right context, saying good night, want to get out. And then let's see, they've had them since 2019, and they haven't seen any signs of mating. They understand that might happen someday. What age would they expect the male and female
I
African?
don't think I don't think you'll ever see any mating between them. African greys form very loose pair bonds. If they were Amazons, you wouldn't be able to keep them like this. You would be having a lot of difficulty. But I have three African greys, one male and two females, and they feed each other. So the male is paired up with one female and they feed each other, but they don't mate. And I don't think that you would see mating unless you gave birds a nest box, or unless they were cockatiels. But let me advise you, please get another cage. They each need their own cage. This is a medical issue that's really serious. If you have two birds of the same species, you cannot tell the difference between their droppings. And two birds are never of the same temperament. And birds change their behavior over time. And birds get bored in cages. So if you have two birds in one cage, it is inevitable that one of them is going to start being bossy with the other, start, chasing them away from the food dish, start, just picking on them a bit. It's a way of getting reinforcement inside the cage because the bird is bored. You must have two separate cages to avoid future problems. Also, these birds need space. Um, two birds should never be compressed like that because of our own wishes and desires. So my birds, true confessions, are rarely in a cage. They are at the moment, but the last time was probably a week ago, maybe. And so when they go to bed at night, they don't cuddle up like this and go to bed. They stay like 5 feet apart from each other. And that is mostly true during the day as well, except for when they choose to approach each other. They do a lot of that during meal times. They do it at, when they are settling down to roost, they will preen each other a bit, but then they separate. We must recognize that birds are individuals with powerful personalities and they need space. They need their own cage. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm off my soapbox now.
Well, since you're speaking of cages, question for you. They have those cages. Your thoughts on those cages that have it's like a divider in between. It's like one unit, but there's a spit like they have their own. And there's also the ones where they have the lower cage and the upper cage. What are your thoughts on those?
Both are terrible. You should never get the stacking cages because birds do not feel safe down below. And so the bird who is living under the other birds are going to be very, very uncomfortable and never quite settle in. It never works. And the cages with the divider never work because when you put the divider in, each side is too narrow. Parrots
Hmm.
are not helicopters. They don't appreciate height. They appreciate width. They want to be able to go back and forth. Also, African greys need playtop cages. Every bird needs a playtop cage. That's my contention.
Okay, yeah, all right. Um, Let's see here. Okay. Oh, interesting. So in Europe, some countries require you to get two of each bird.
Mhm,
What are your
mhm.
thoughts on that? Should we all
Yeah,
be on?
Germany, that's true in Germany. Yeah. But the thing there that I don't like is they make you get a male and a female bird. That is a recipe for disaster. So that was a law made by somebody who didn't know anything about parrots. It's going to work if you're talking African grays. It's not going to work if you're talking Amazons or cockatoos. And so, I think that if we're going to make laws like that, then it should be somebody who has experience with parrots who makes them. That's what I think about that. I
Okay.
do think though that parrots should not live alone. Let's look at that as the subject. I do not
Hmm.
think parrots should live alone. I understand that it's necessary sometimes, but it is such a boost to quality of life just to have another set of feathers in the house. You know, it doesn't have to be the same species. It doesn't have to be a big parrot. I mean, let's say you have an African gray and you don't have space for another bird. Get a budgie or a cockatiel, some little old world parrot, that's small, just because parrots, they're meat and potatoes. What really fills them up during the day is the ability to display, to engage in parallel activities. They don't want one-on-one. Parrots don't do one-on-one unless they're breeding. But what they care about is being able to eat when the other birds eat and when you eat. And they want to preen see,
Yeah.
and preen when, okay, well, if you take them to the bathroom, then they get to have a parallel activity. Otherwise, they don't have a buddy to preen with unless they have another bird in the house. It's important. It's really important.
Do you think it should be you mentioned old world, like if you were gonna get like two birds of like old world and two birds of the new, like you wouldn't, would you mix old world and new world? Does it matter?
I wouldn't. I have tried and tried to dispense with that idea in my own mind, but there really is something to it. I think part of it is that so many of the old world parrots, they live in large single species flocks, so they understand each other's communication. New world parrots live in small family groups um, within multi-species flocks. So they have to have more overt communication. So I've had way more problems between new and old world birds. It's like, I mean, why should I be able to keep two budgies out free with my African grays? They understand each other on some level.
Interesting. Yeah, we that'd be a
Yeah.
good webinar topic right there. Old world and new world birds. Just how you there's slight nuances, right, in keeping them and
Yeah, but I don't know that it's fact based. That's why I say
ah, okay.
it's just anecdotal experience where it just seems to work better one way, but then there'll be lots of examples that would, negate that rule. There's lots of homes where an Amazon lives with an African gray and their friends, so
Yeah.
it has a lot to do with habituation. Anyway.
And have you heard like sometimes like your new world bird could have an allergy to your old world bird's dust, like a cockatoo and a Amazon, like the
I have never heard of that being a thing unless you're talking about large macaws.
okay.
Yeah, I think large macaws present us with many mysteries that we have not even begun to suspect yet. The way they pull their pin feathers if they engage in feather damaging behavior. I don't really believe that birds have allergies per se. But we do see in some large macaws chronic sensitivity to things in the environment. Um, and it seems to always be a large macaw in a home with either a gray or most often a cockatoo. Because you got to get a bird that really produces enough powder down for that to be a problem. And then if they're in the same room, it can be a problem. But you can also make it work if you put air purifiers by the powder down bird's cage. So when the powder down gets released, it gets sucked back
Mm.
into the bird's area. And you can keep space between the cages. I have one bird in my clientele that she's a green, the owner has a green wing macaw that has such serious sensitivity to upper respiratory things that he's got to regularly go for oxygen treatments and things. And I recommended to her that she add nettle into his regimen. And she says he's had no trips to the emergency vet since then, because nettle is an herb that helps with upper respiratory issues. Another example of how we may very well have herbal medicines that may help in situations where really pharmaceuticals have failed us.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay. All right. So we have a question about another another eclectus question. A 2-year-old eclectus. When their 2-year-old eclectus is in their cage and they're in the same room, their family room, he
Uh-huh.
sometimes leans forward, flutters his wings, and screeches at a very high pitch.
Uh-huh.
Normally, is a good talker, so they're assuming that this means he wants to get out of the cage. Do you have
Uh-huh.
any recommendations to make him happy inside the cage? They have a few. They have hanging toys, which they change weekly.
Uh-huh.
Also, the green color is worn off on his shoulder feathers. And is it likely due to the slightly crowded cage or diet? They feed him Zupreme pellets and fresh veggies.
The wearing off of the green on the shoulder, I'm sorry to tell you, your bird is feather damaging and you should have a consultation. That is that, birds never have bare spaces when they're molting. He's not, unless you see him, rubbing his shoulder against the bars constantly. And even that would be a warning signal, because we would label that a stereotypy. So that's a concern that he is feather damaging. Now, the way that behavior works is that whenever a behavior gets rewarded, it's going to occur more often in the future. So we do want birds to be out of their cages, but we don't want to reward obnoxious behavior. So the one thing you should not do when he is exhibiting that behavior is go let him out. Wait until he stops that and he's exhibiting some other more functional behavior, and then go over and let him out, so that you're not rewarding that particular behavior. Now, as far as getting him to like his cage, I really can't answer that without seeing the cage. Is it a crummy cage? Is it a big cage? Does he have a play top? But generally speaking, here's another bit about behavior. You get the behavior you reinforce, not the behavior you want. So, assuming that you have a good cage and you've got good toys in there, enrichment for him, then here's what I want you to do. Whenever he's playing with a toy, I want you to say, "Good job! Yay! What a good boy playing with that toy." And then you walk over and give him some kind of food that he really likes. Again, you get the behaviors you reinforce, not the behavior you want. So look for the things he does well and reward those. Now, one word about rewarding. If you're 3 feet away from him and it's going to take you, you know, a second or two to go over and deliver some food, you have to use a bridge. So that means that, whenever you see him do a good behavior, you're going to say something like yes, or I don't care what you say, fly to the moon, but you have to make a sound so that he knows that treat is on the way.
Okay. All right. Let's see if, okay. So someone has a yellow-naped Amazon. What would be the one thing you'd impress on them as an owner of the species? So they have a yellow-naped Amazon. What's your biggest advice for?
For the owner of a yellow-naped Amazon,
Yeah.
I have a couple in my clientele right now. I would say to you, this is one of the most challenging but rewarding parrots that anyone could have. I wish I had one, but don't be sensitive, don't get your feelings hurt. These birds go through a very spunky period of time between about age 7 or 8 to maybe 15. They can be really challenging. How are they challenging? They get hormonal. They're not challenging if they don't have the triggers for hormone production in place. I'll tell you about my case that is impossible right now. This gentleman has a yellow-naped Amazon that is pair bonded to him. So anytime a woman appears, he attacks the woman. And so for that reason, they've been banished to the garage. And he wants me to solve this problem. I can't solve the problem if he and the bird are in the garage, because the bird is going to think they are in a nest box together. So you've got to be super careful with yellow napes. Hands off. Do a lot of training, do a lot of guidance with them, a lot of stationing, keep them out of cavities, keep them on a diet that offers a lot of variety but very low metabolizable energy. Amazons do well on Lafeber, Rowdy Bush, or Amazon or Harrison's adult lifetime. So don't trigger hormones. That's my advice.
And is that the same for male and female? Is there a
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the females do not present near the challenge that males do. Yeah, in this species, males are way more forward than females are.
Okay.
Forward meaning
More. Yeah. 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 Okay. So, let's see. Oh, so someone asked, yeah, this is actually a good follow-up question. Are separate large cages needed for even the smaller parrots like budgies?
Yes. Well, maybe not. It depends upon the budgies. It depends upon how much time they get out of the cage. I think you can put 2 budgies in one of those flight cages that are so common for budgies and cockatiels, but I wouldn't put more in there. But you've got to, supervise like a hawk, because again, if you have 2 birds in the same cage, you won't be able to tell the difference between the droppings if one bird gets sick. So you have to be especially attentive. It would be better for them to have separate cages, but some situations don't allow for it. One case we had 2 green cheek conures and 3 budgies and 2 cages. So we separated the green cheeks and put all 3 budgies in one cage just because we didn't have any other options.
Okay. Let's see that. That's a good question because I mean you go into like the old like back in the day the pet stores is always like just a cage just full of budgies like just like 30 of them, and like it's just fine or yeah. So people, yeah. There we go. Um I'm sure you have thoughts on that. Just
My thought is we should not sell birds from stores.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Okay. Yeah, no, it's just that was so common, back in yeah.
My bird store here in LaPorte, Indiana has a cage full of budgies in the back.
Oh, okay.
My
Okay.
pet store.
Yeah. And they have their little cliques inside those cages, I'm sure. Maybe they henpeck I don't know. It just seems like
I think some of the birds do get henpecked from what I can see. I try not to go back there and watch, frankly. I can't handle it. The reason I got a budgie is because I went in that store and I can always hear the budgies. All of that friendly chirping, right? This one day, there was such a distress call. And I went back there and there was one budgie there. There was no food. And I didn't even think about it. I just said, I want this. I want to adopt that budgie. And the guy said, which one? There was only one in the cage.
oh wow. Okay. Okay.
And then
Wow.
I got a second because you shouldn't have just one budgie. So,
Okay, wow. Okay. Wow. Oh, hate to that's a good note to end on. It's a reminder of how birds are Okay. Um, I gotta announce today's winner because we have our giveaway winner, the apple Nutriberries. And by the way, the apple Nutriberries, like July is it, so we're already coming up on the halfway point of these
Mm,
being available. Um, the the This is like the unique flavor of summer, I'm calling it, and that's going to go out to Karen Cullen. So congratulations, Karen. You also get a favorite product of your bird's choosing. And so. We'll see you in August. We're doing the
mhm. Yeah,
food topic, right? That'd be
right,
a good
right,
one.
right.
Um, I'm sure that it's so tied into health and behavior, right?
It
Food is,
is. It
yeah.
is. I mean, diet is the first thing of importance to get in place when you have a bird.
Okay. I think that's something that needs to be really put out there because yeah, I'm sure a lot of people don't realize how much that ties in. So that'll be
Yeah,
fascinating. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then so next Friday we're going to be on with Dr. Lamb on psittacosis, so another important topic with birds. And I was also going to give a sneak preview in August. We're going to have a very special webinar. We'll be putting the feelers out for that soon. You'll see it. It will be announcing that in our next webinars and online. So just August, we have a very special celebration coming up, so we want you to all join us. We'll put the information on that. Just a little sneak, just kind of the tease that a little bit, pique your interest, and hopefully you're going to be with us every webinar from. I mean, we got a lot in July, and we got a lot in August. So, um, Pamela, thank you for your generosity and your time, but also your honesty is just it's refreshing and it's good to hear, and you kind of dispel some common bird behavior myths that it's just I love that you have this I love your take on things. So,
Oh, thank
as do
you.
others because I'm seeing all the comments in there. So like thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm always afraid I'm going to offend someone, but I can't do anything but speak the truth. Um, and the truth as I know it, as I have learned from, 30 years of experience. So,
Yeah, that's why we have you on because you speak it like it is. So it's good to hear. So, all right. Thank you for joining us, everyone, today. I'm sure we could go on and on with behavior topics like throughout the year because it's such a big part. Just like, the food and one is going to be very exciting. So we can't wait to hear what you have to say in that one. So
well, if anyone likes these Q&As, they can come join my community, the Parrot Steward community, because we have these every Saturday for 2 hours.
there you go. All right. We'll have to put that in your bio for on lafeber.com. I don't know if we
Yeah.
updated your bio, but
Oh, yeah. Okay.
okay.
I didn't even know I had a bio there. I'll go look maybe
All right.
if
All
I
right,
have
guys.
time.
All right. On that note, everyone have a fabulous weekend. All the best in your flock. Everyone stay safe. And Pamela, thanks again. Awesome.
You're so welcome. My honor. Bye, everyone.